Hello. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm going to pop in the group real quick because I had some audio problems with my last broadcast and just make sure I can hear and see myself. So today we're talking about, it's not a very fun subject, UTIs. It says I'm live. There I am. Because I had some. Okay. I can hear me. Awesome. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about UTIs. And I know it's an uncomfortable subject, and I know you're probably not going to want to comment and ask questions, so you can DM me questions if you have them. I apologize for the lighting in here. It's kind of weird because the sun is shining. So I will answer questions via DM if you don't want to post them in the group. But here's the thing. I want to encourage you to just post the questions, right? UTIs happen, okay? Nothing to be ashamed of. And if we don't talk about these uncomfortable topics, then more people just keep getting sick with them, right? And UTIs might not seem very significant, but if you have chronic UTIs, then it really can affect your daily living, right? Your quality of life, if you will. So let's talk about them. First, we're going to talk about what causes them, right? We're going to talk about the standard treatment form, why that might not be a good idea to keep doing that forever and ever. I'm going to tell you about natural rapid relief for a UTI, because if you're having a UTI or you're fixing to have a UTI, then it's too late to do all the root cause healing stuff, right? We have to be able to do something now, and then we can work on the root cause. And we'll talk a little bit about the root causes and kind of how you can get started with that stuff too. So if you're new in the group, I'm Audrey, functional and integrative nurse nutritionist and energy medicine practitioner. I help women overcome their chronic illness, autoimmune disease, all that kind of stuff. Usually I call that an autoimmune revolution, whether it's something chronic like chronic UTIs or whether you have an actual diagnosed autoimmune disease. So let's get started. So let's talk about what causes a UTI. So here's the thing. Urine is sterile until it reaches the urethra, right? And so usually something called an ascending bacterial contamination is what happens due to the obstruction of urine flow in the presence of bacteria. Now, that bacteria can be from the intestines, from the bladder itself, from the intestines, the bladder is sterile, or from vaginal secretions, right? The short answer is about 90% of urinary tract infections are caused by E. coli, right? It's about 90%. E. coli is the offender, and usually that's from bacterial contamination from the intestines, right? So when an infection takes place, usually you're feeling things like burning and painful urination, increased urinary frequency, so you have to pee a lot more and it hurts when you pee, and that's just not fun, right? Could be foul smelling urine. You could also have some lower abdominal pain, so it could feel like your bladder is spasming. It feels different than like cramping, premenstrual cramping or menstrual cramps, right? So a serious complication of bladder infections, especially recurring bladder infections, is kidney problems, like kidney infections. So being able to prevent new infections from happening and get rid of the old ones the current one is extremely important. So typically the intervention for that, the standard intervention, is antibiotics. Now, antibiotics, every once in a while for an acute infection, are they great for you? No, but sometimes they're necessary, right? You have to have them sometimes. Urinary tract infections is one of those things that you can have progressing levels of natural treatments without having to resort to to antibiotics a lot of the times. If you have recurring UTIs, then you're taking antibiotics a lot, or in some cases, I've seen physicians give a low dose antibiotic, similar to what they do with like kids with acne, to try to prevent those all the time. Might be good at preventing UTIs, but it's damaging your body in other much greater ways. Long-term extended antibiotic use, even low dose, causes a whole host of problems, from chronic illness to autoimmune disease and beyond, to some of the big scary stuff, right? Or bigger and scarier stuff. And it can also mess with your hormones, your ability to lose weight, all kinds of things, okay? So what do we do for it? We're going to tackle this in two ways. If you're treating a UTI, if you're trying to heal this without pharmaceutical, so without antibiotics, then the main goal for treatment is to create something called a hostile environment for bacteria in the bladder. And when you do that, you can focus the attention, if you will, on the bladder rather than stripping the entire body of all of its good microbes, okay? So you do this with increasing the urine flow to flush out harmful organisms, right? You support the immune metabolic reserve, and you create a difficult a difficult way for the bacteria to stick. So E. coli sticks to the inside of the bladder. Now, a lot of people do this. A lot of people try to do this with cranberry juice. This is actually the wrong answer. So cranberry juice and vitamin C is often the go-to, and this is not what you want to do. Typically, I recommend a trio of treatments. The first one is uva ursi, UVAURSI. It's an herb. Super easy to source at your local health food store. Don't recommend buying it off Amazon. Most of those are fake supplements. But what you want to do is go to like your Sprouts, your Natural Grocers, your Whole Foods. Those are usually the places that you're going to find it. And you're going to get uva ursi, UVAURSI. You're also going to pick up D-mannose, D as in David dash MANNOSE, mannose. Okay. And then again, your third strategy is going to be to increase the flow of urine and alkalize, make it less acidic. Alkalize is the word I'm trying to say, the urine, okay? D-mannose is a non-absorbed sugar, and it's actually naturally released from the body via urine. And what it does is it actually releases the grip on the lining of the urinary tract, on the lining of the bladder. Then uva ursi is a really potent herbal antibacterial product supplement, right? It's a plant, an herb. And these are what you're going to use for those 90% of people who have the E. coli infection, okay? Again, very easy to source. You're going to do D-mannose, 1,000 milligrams twice a day, and that counters an existing infection. Then you want to use the uva ursi at 2 to 3 times a day, right? And the maximum dose that you can do uva ursi, lots of tongue twisters this morning, is actually the recommended dose on the label. So here's the thing. You want to make sure if you're taking the uva ursi, right, that you know that it's not safe for everyone. It's not safe for kids. It's not safe for individuals with liver disease, right? But you can still use the D-mannose on its own, which is really quite effective. If you have chronic UTIs, while you're working through your healing process, you can also take 1,000 milligrams of D-mannose daily as a preventative measure. Now, there are people, that 10%, and those are usually the people that come to me, right? Those 10% that the regular stuff like D-mannose and uva ursi don't work. And we will talk about creating alkaline urine here in just a second. But for those of you that fall into that 10%, that E. coli is not the problem, usually that's because you have something called a biofilm, okay? Biofilms are an accumulation of bacteria or microorganisms, right? And they're products, they're called extracellular products. They create like a web or a film. And if you look at it under a microscope, it looks like a structured community, right? And it attaches itself to the lining of the urethra, to the lining of the bladder, basically the linings of the urogenital tract, okay? Now, when you have these biofilms, it makes even antibiotic treatment, but natural treatment as well, very, very difficult, right? You have to bust through and break down these biofilms in order to sort of get over the hump. So if you have chronic UTIs and you're treating them with antibiotics or you're treating them naturally, then biofilm could be one of your root causes. Not the only root cause. UTIs, just like everything else, have multiple root causes. So you can do something called biofilm disruptors, and they can be very helpful for preventing the recurrence of a UTI once you get rid of it. So there's a few that I recommend, and I will link them in my full script, audreychristie.com/full script, and I will make a category. Let me write that down. I'll make a category today of my 2 favorite biofilm busters. Here's the thing about biofilms though. You can have side effects from busting biofilms because your body, so if you've had chronic UTIs long enough that you have biofilms, you can have a lot of side effects when you go to bust through biofilms. So I really recommend that you have your energy and drainage on point with that before you go busting biofilms on your own.
Hey
Well,
friends, we're back,
ooh,
and today we're talking about food intolerance symptoms.
interesting. So I hit mute. I don't know why something else started playing, and I don't know where it's coming from. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. I better check in to see what. Let's check in real quick. So as I was saying, the biofilms can be difficult to bust. In the Autoimmune Revolution Kickstart, there is an energy and drainage piece of information that you can download that if you don't have that. Okay, y'all can still hear me. Perfect. So if you don't have that, then it's, I believe it's on page 11 in that handbook. Go through that energy and drainage. Make sure if you're not pooping 2 to 3 times a day, that's a sign that you shouldn't be busting biofilms, even for UTIs, okay? If you are having a lot of really heavy PMS symptoms, or if your periods are really painful, that's a sign that you shouldn't be busting biofilm. You shouldn't jump right into busting those biofilms, that there is work to be done before we get into that. Okay, so again, I'll make that, it's audreychristie.com/full script. That'll link you to a safe place to buy supplements. And because you're in the wellness circle, your little discount will be applied. So you probably get them cheaper than anywhere else. And I'll do that right after we get done here. So chronic UTIs, biofilm busting. Okay, now the third thing that I mentioned was alkaline urine. Okay, and this is where people go wrong sometimes with using cranberry juice or cranberry juice and vitamin C. So uva ursae is far more effective in an alkaline pH. So what you're going to do is improve the acidity of your urine. Now, how do you do that? Give up temporarily, just until your UTI is gone. I hope you would do it forever, but give up just until your UTI is gone. Soda, black coffee, black tea, any dairy foods or cow products, especially cheese. Give up making the animal protein the focus of your meal and grains. Okay, so even if it's just for 3 to 5 days, it helps everything work better. Now, this also means stopping any cranberry juice. If cranberry is kind of like your go-to, take the extract, the pill extract, okay? And it also means halting any vitamin C supplements or vitamin C containing products if the form of vitamin C that you're using is absorbic acid, okay? Plentiful vitamin C in foods like eating lots of oranges and red bell peppers and that kind of thing is always welcome, but taking the vitamin C supplements is going to be something that you want to skip while you're trying to get over this UTI. Just a side note, cranberry juice can be effective on its own in very, very mild cases, but generally it interferes with maximum effectiveness of the D-mannose and the uva ursae if you're trying to treat an infection that's been hanging on for a little while, okay? So you do those things, you get rid of that. What do you drink instead? Plenty of fresh, clean, plain drinking water, okay? Lots and lots of it. And that'll help flush those microbes throughout the body. It'll help alkalize your urine pH. So that means raise the pH. Now, I talked about biofilm. So what are some of the root causes of UTIs, specifically chronic UTIs? Well, biofilms is one of them, right? Parasites can be a big part of that. Not having your drainage pathways open. So if your liver or bowel drainage pathways are blocked, those can be root causes. Additionally, stress is a huge root cause for UTIs, right? And then there's energetic root causes as well. Some of them include inability to cope. Some of them include something called abandonment and anticipation. So you have like a strong underlying abandonment anxiety. Another one is the energy of being royally pissed off. Anger is a big root cause for UTIs. So I think I covered everything that I said I would cover. Let me just double check. We talked about biofilms. I'm going to put that in audreychristie.com/full script for you guys. We talked about, did I say parasites? Parasites is another big root cause of UTIs. And usually when I say parasites, people say, well, I don't have parasites. I can prove it to you. And then they say, well, I don't have parasites. I had a stool test. Well, guess what? If you have a stool test and you pass parasites, then you don't have a parasite problem sometimes, because that means your body's passing the parasites, and that's what's supposed to happen. But if you have a parasite stool test, which you guys might already know, like I don't generally want, there's very few reasons why somebody needs to take a parasite stool test. But if you are not passing the parasites, it's not going to show up in your parasite stool test. That's when you have the problem. So where might you have picked up parasites? Anywhere. If you have dogs that kiss you on the face, or hang out in places like sleep in your bed, those kind of things. And it's, I mean, I love my pets too. I have horses and dogs and chickens, and they all get in my face. But I also make sure that I cleanse for parasites regularly. If you have gardening, if you're gardening and you play in the dirt, and all it takes is just a quick rub of the eye or rubbing your nose, you could get parasites. If you've ever had a underdone or less than well done meal at a restaurant or at home, if you ever had sushi or sashimi, probably have parasites. I'm not telling you to avoid these things at all. I'm just letting you know that parasites are, almost everyone has parasites, right? So that's part of like a phase 2. You work on energy and drainage and you start working on parasites. Almost everyone. I have not had one person yet say, "Oh, Audrey, I did that phase and I didn't have any parasites. So let's move on." No, usually it's, can I keep doing this? Because there's still more stuff coming out of me, or you wouldn't believe what came out of me. And again, this is another one of those uncomfortable things, right? And as long as we don't talk about the uncomfortable things, then more people just suffer and suffer and suffer, and they don't know what it is, and they don't know how to get rid of it. And I want to change all of that. So that's the information on UTIs. Let me know if you guys need a checklist. Again, I know it's weird to talk about these kind of things. So if you have questions, feel free to DM me privately, and I will either come back and make another video and answer them anonymously for you, and or respond directly to that. So always anonymous when you guys ask me those type of questions. Don't forget that we're on the last week of our walking challenge. So next week's UTI, I hope not. Next week's Wellness Wednesday will be on the top, I call them weight loss levers, right? The top weight loss levers that people can't seem to get over in order to move into successfully releasing weight and keeping it off forever. Sort of finding your set point. I'll also be announcing the winners of the walking challenge. So if you haven't commented on those posts about your progress, please go back and do that so you can be entered to win an Amazon gift card. I'm trying to figure out how to give you guys a full script gift card because I don't really want y'all buying supplements from Amazon. Just because a lot of times they're counterfeit, or they're not stored properly, or they're expired. Like, there's all kinds of things. I think that's it. So if you guys have questions, let me know. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Oh, live office hours on Friday around 8 or 9 a.m. Just watch for the post and send me a note, and I'll be happy to answer your quick clinical questions specifically for you. Thanks so much. Be well.